Okay, next up is Chris Giebink, and he is going to talk about Nanoporous Antireflective Coating.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. I'm a professor in the electrical engineering department here at Penn State, and I'm going to tell you about an anti-reflection technology developed in my lab that can make transparent plastics like plexiglass effectively invisible, as you see in this photograph here of what happens to a plastic dome when we coat both sides of it. So people typically want to eliminate reflections from plastics for two reasons. First is getting more light. So for example, in your cell phone camera, you've got about 5 little plastic lenses stacked on top of each other. That adds up to a lot of reflection loss if you don't do anything about it. Similarly, you can have anti-reflecting films to let more light through windows. And it's obviously important to get as much light as possible into solar power conversion systems like you see pictured there. The other basic reason is to eliminate unwanted light, so that means glare from products ranging from eyeglass lenses to displays to the little plastic domes that go over security cameras. Right now, the most common solution, common anti-reflection solution for plastics is probably the inorganic multi-layer coating the ophthalmics industry puts on, they put on eyeglass lenses. So this has the benefit of being both hard and scratch resistant, but by the same measure, it's not flexible because it'll just crack off. But more importantly, this kind of coating only works well over a relatively narrow range of wavelengths that your eye is sensitive to, and it degrades as you go off angle. Another common solution is just to apply an ultra-thin layer of Teflon, which is both durable and flexible, but it sacrifices in terms of the anti-reflection performance. So what my group figured out how to do is to make nanoporous Teflon, where you can grade the porosity with nanometer thickness control throughout the film. This leads to a dramatic benefit in terms of the anti-reflection performance, but also retains a lot of the durability benefits that are inherent to existing Teflon coatings. So the pictures really tell the story. I already showed you what happens to the plastic dome on the title slide, but here's another example of a little droplet of water that's sitting on a normal uncoated plexiglass film there. You can see its reflection in the room lights, and compare that with its neighbor that's sitting on an anti-reflected portion of the same piece of plexiglass. It looks almost like it's floating because you can't see the reflection from the surface supporting it. Now, in addition to the optical properties, I should mention that there are some other useful characteristics, like the fact that this coating doesn't fog up, as you see there on the right. So I want to finish by giving you 2 examples of how we're partnering with companies to test out the performance of our coating in their products. So the first is a company that makes pretty much all of the security cameras that you see around campus. Now on sunny days, glare from that plastic protective dome leads to annoying red spots in the camera image like you see there circled on the right. What we did is applied our coating to the interior of one of their domes, and it almost completely eliminates the problem as you see on the left. Second example is a coating that makes very high efficiency solar cells that go on the wings of drone aircraft like the Airbus Zephyr that you see there. Applying our coating to the top of their cells lets more light in and boosts the power output by about 10 to 20%, which is actually a big deal for drones like these.
Dr. Giebink, I have to stop you there.
Oh, okay, so I will end there with a summary of our team and some of the broader markets we think we can serve.
So you've identified the material, you've shown some of its measured properties. In terms of an application process and or production type of process, where are you in terms of making this practical for high use?
Sure. So the coating itself is actually built on a lot of existing technology. So it's an existing material, Teflon, and it's processed or put down with existing vacuum evaporation processes. It's the same processes that already are used to deposit thin film coatings. So it's basically a process type of knowledge that we can basically tell people, okay, you can use your existing line, your existing tooling, but this is how you take Teflon and this is how you do the coating, and you can deposit it just as you would for any other coating. So it's easily translatable into existing product lines with sort of a minimal change in tooling.
Do you think that'll be a problem with respect to IP for your process? Do you think you'll be challenged with that?
So far, so we have 2 patents, 2 non-provisionals out there right now. One is pretty far along in the process. It looks like it will go through. So it looks like we've secured the IP surrounding that. You know, trying to predict beyond that is obviously difficult. But so far, I think we've got a pretty good position in terms of our IP.
Can you walk me through your business development strategy? How you plan to get this to market?
Right, so it's actually kind of in process right now, but I can tell you where this ends up. It is something that probably ends up in one of the big players' hands, something like a PPG or a 3M or something like that. How it gets there, though, whether or not we form a startup to develop the technology that then gets acquired, or whether Penn State just licenses the technology directly, maybe field limited to different industries, we don't know yet. That's something we're going to be figuring out over the next year.
When you say we, who's we in this case?
The guy that was supposed to be up there on the screen behind me, but is no longer. So the team currently involves myself, my postdoc on the scientific side, and then we've got some additional help from Martin Bradley, who's helping us in terms of sort of navigate the business side.
So is R.J. Lee involved, or?
Not, I mean, R.J. Lee is not involved in name, only Marty is, so this is sort of a contracting or a consultant type situation.
Have you had any contact with any strategics in the space, some of the companies you showed as potential customers? Have you had any interaction or expressed interest?
We have, yeah. So again, all of those companies that were up there, we either have NDAs with, or we have active material transfer agreements where we're basically testing the performance of our coating on their products. So, for example, Giebink, one of the large plastic makers in the world, we're working with them to test out the performance of our coating on Lexan polycarbonate that they use in greenhouses because they want to let more light into their greenhouses. But similar relationships with the 2 companies I discussed, as well as PPG and so on, are kind of looking for the most immediate kind of beachhead market for this. The coating has a lot of positives, and we want to make sure that we attack the areas where we know it's going to succeed rather than just kind of shooting in the dark.
Have you had any feedback from the companies that have?
We have. So the 2 examples that I gave you, the camera company, for example, was obviously very happy to get rid of their red spots. The response from Giebink has so far been positive. We just got the response on the first round of samples that we sent them for internal testing. The way it works with optical coatings is there are sort of common scratch tests that you can use, but most of the people in the industry don't really care about those. Everything is product specific. They care about how it works in their product. And so that's why we've had to partner directly with folks like Giebink. So we've just gotten the response of one of those first interactions. They like what they see in terms of the optical properties. Now they have to go through the durability testing, which just takes time.
Do you have any reason to believe that it will be environmentally unstable, that you'll have challenges with durability?
No, this was actually developed out of a government-sponsored program for solar energy. It was developed for solar concentrators that have to sit out in the environment for 20 years. So we've actually had these on the roof of the electrical engineering building for about 2 years now. It changes almost negligibly. This is one of the fantastic benefits of Teflon because it's completely inert chemically, it doesn't absorb any UV light, and so as far as the environment is concerned, it really doesn't care a whole bunch.
At scale, how will your price compare to competition?
It's a good question. We don't know exactly yet. I can tell you what the material cost is. It's about 20 cents per square meter in terms of material. And then since we're using the same deposition processes that existing optical coatings are, we kind of have the same costs built into the production.
Okay, and there's no more questions. Thank you, Dr. Giebink.